The entire Danielle situation has taught me one thing about many K-pop stans. They will treat individual, direct forms of discrimination as the end of the world, but will gladly ignore structural problems without a second thought. Put differently, some of you people understand misogyny, racism, and classism very narrowly. And that is highly problematic. I won't argue in favor of Danielle and New Jeans from a legal point of view, because I mostly reject all judicial, legislative, and executive systems in capitalism and capitalist countries, as they mainly serve the purpose of protecting the property and interests of the rich. So whether Danielle and New Jeans' strategies were smart from a legal perspective isn't the topic of this video. Rather, this video aims to show you how HYBE and ADOR instrumentalized power dynamics to keep not only the girls, but all of their artists under control and subservient. In the following, I will discuss several premises that my viewpoint is based on. But before I start, I want to clarify two things. A. I am not a New Jeans fan. Yes, I enjoyed their songs. But my aim is not to defend New Jeans because they are New Jeans, but rather because I see a harmful message in the entire happenings that will eventually harm all artists. B. I do not support heejin. The way she has worked with the girls, who could be her daughters. The way she has included suggestive and inappropriate lyrics in their songs, and the way she has created an unhealthy and unprofessional relationship with the girls are all aspects that I do not condone. Heejin is a problematic case that deserves to be discussed separately, and you can even argue that she involved the girls in this for personal gains. Yet, that does not undermine that the girls themselves might have also been unhappy with the situation. I will not deny them their agency. 1. The 7-year contract is inherently problematic. 7-year exclusive contracts should not exist. Workers and artists should have the right to cancel their contracts at will, for no reason given. For many workers, that is the case, but artists tied to the entertainment industry often have long-term contracts that can only be canceled by paying an excessive amount of money that often exceeds their net worth. This situation is made worse because many K-pop idols enter the industry at a very young age and sign contracts through the consent of a legal guardian. Parents like that are either ignorant, irresponsible, or greedy, but that is besides the point. The point is that, due to companies taking advantage of children and their ambitions, as well as through the help of irresponsible parents, children who haven't mentally fully developed end up in contracts from which they cannot escape. I am aware that companies invest in idols and their training with the purpose of exploiting surplus value from their work. But this is what I reject at the core. Since the average person does not usually have the means to become a self-produced artist and make their work known, they often depend on larger million-dollar companies to allow them to achieve their goals. Otherwise, nobody would go to these companies in the first place. 2. Imbalance of power dynamics between ADOR and New Jeans. Ador, being a sublabel of HYBE, obviously has access to larger wealth resources, media, and discourse influence. New Jeans fought their battle together with Heejin, who is also the owner of a company and the former owner of ADOR, but in comparison, they do not have the power and resources to fight the legal battle and influence media discourse the same way HYBE does. Media influence plays a key role. HYBE paying news sources to either distract the public from scandals of their artists or to paint themselves in a favorable light is no secret. Media shapes discourse and public opinion, which eventually also shapes how things are going to be viewed in court. The lawyers, judges, and witnesses are all individuals influenced by discursive power. Most evidently, as they go home, consume media, and internalize the opinions and views presented in news. If HYBE, with their $8 billion USD worth, can influence enough news to portray their side in a more favorable way, or even smear the opposite party that is going to have an impact on how the case is handled. This power imbalance is obviously further strengthened by the resource of the patriarchal dividend that the male CEOs and representatives of HYBE benefit from, which marginalizes new genes. Maybe this is also the time to address how the illit greeting situation has been completely misconstrued on social media and in the news. The only thing Min, heejin, and new genes pointed out was that illit's manager told them to ignore new genes. Nowhere did new genes ever place an attack on illit or make them responsible for the situation. Instead, the point was to show how internally there was an effort to isolate them. Popular discourse turned this entire thing into an illit versus new genes thing, as if new genes had questioned the morals of illit or referred to them as bullies. Frankly, the girls were not even of concern, but rather the staff. But if you followed any popular article on the situation, as well as fan discourse on social media, you would think new genes directly made illit responsible for their working conditions. Stupid fans jumped on this misconstruction and started pitting the girls against each other. 3. HYBE kicking Danielle out of New Jeans and the company after winning the lawsuit shows its oppressive, intimidating, and coercive nature. I am aware that Danielle herself said that she did not want to return to ADOR. But there are a few things to consider here. 1. The main argument tends to be that ADOR has invested all this money into Danielle and the members, and therefore they have the right to bring them back to the company to exploit them for profit. If they consider Danielle incapable of working with, why would they not let her go on her own terms? But first force her to come back just to kick her out again? Either way, they are unable to win any profits from her if she refuses to work. The purpose of kicking her out and filing $1 million lawsuit against her is not to demand compensation for the loss. HYBE is making millions from all their other artists. Letting Danielle go would not have led to any serious financial harm for them. The point is rather to 1. Punish her for going against authority. 2. Keep her, New Jeans, and also all other artists under the company in line. It is a demonstration of power, essentially. Artists are ought to fear, and yes, this includes illit, Le Seraphim, and all other artists that you use to attack New Jeans, the consequences of what happens if they demand safe working conditions, respect, and agency from HYBE. So no one in the future even dares to take the step New Jeans took or, on simpler levels, ask for any sort of adjustment to the working conditions. This is also why companies blacklist artists after they take similar steps. This is what so-called company stans, in this case HYBE stans, do not understand. This entire situation has given HYBE more power to subjugate all their other artists and keep them subservient. I would not have made this video, but I genuinely find it extremely problematic how we are discussing this lawsuit and internalizing and naturalizing oppressive power imbalances. Arguments about how New Jeans should have just accepted workplace conditions, how they became greedy, or even worse, how they are dramatic and too soft to handle the realities of the entertainment industry. All of this helps justify and legitimize the means companies use to exploit their artists. A core principle of feminism is partisanship, to solidarize yourself with the marginalized party in a conflict and take their concerns seriously. If New Jeans claims to have been treated unjustly under ADOR, then you are ought to at least take that into consideration and not base your opinion on what the court considers harassment. Or not, the same court that gives rapists only 3 years in prison, by the way, and constantly dismisses cases of